Good evening, everybody. Um, Welcome back to When in Rome. I know that we were supposed to technically do this last night, but I was just too damn tired. Uh, Life's
It
been
happens.
crazy lately, and yeah, so we're back with When in Rome. My co-host Matt Krotz decided to join us this week after taking a week hiatus his own self.
Yeah. I just had a terrible work week last week, but I'm excited for this one because
We're
the
finishing.
end of this video, the late Empire is going to be
Yeah,
it's worth talking about. Absolutely.
well, and so that's the thing, is that we're heading into territory where I have a pretty solid basis of the late Empire, but Matt definitely has way more knowledge than I do, especially being as his books take place in what, third century, second or third
Mhm.
century.
Yep, right in 250. So
Okay, yeah, so it's during the middle of the third century crisis where Rome is falling to shit.
yeah,
Like you have an occasional good guy coming along like Aurelian, but like for the most part, the Roman Empire is on its way out the damn door.
yeah.
Um,
After decline, before the fall, but
yeah. So we are going to have a good time. Let's see who has joined us in the chat. We've got a Hojo in the chat saying, "Hail Odin." Hojo, dude, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you just launched a campaign, didn't you? Mythicals?
oh, fantastic.
If you did, hit me up with the link. We'll share it. We'll put it up on the screen before we close out the show tonight. Creators Outlet is here. Hail nerds. Oh, will Ogden make it till the end tonight? I will. I am not dude. Last Wednesday I should have just postponed. I was so tired.
Yeah.
Like I was like, all right, guys, we're gonna head out. And Neff's like, dude, we have like 10 minutes left in the video. You're not just gonna finish the video. I'm like,
Oh, that's hilarious. There you go. That's what a good co-host can do for you.
oh goodness gracious. But and then we've got some love coming in from the chat. Hojo saying, hey,
Hail Hojo.
we've got an Aldous in the chat. Thank you so
Hail
much.
Aldous.
Aldous, I was expecting you to watch our replay, but we appreciate you being here live. Tonight we're going to finish up this god-awful video. So let's get the party started.
Absolutely.
All right. Add to the stream.
Would become the founder of the next dynasty. Vespasian and Titus, suppressing the uprising in Judea, committed genocide, again, according to modern day.
Okay. So wait a second.
Let's talk about it.
It was like, okay, well, they committed genocide by a modern day standard. It's like, first of all, actually, let's let them finish that thought, because
Sure.
I find this hilarious because Julius Caesar, they just straight up said he committed genocide, but they're like, oh, by modern day standards, they committed genocide. So let's see if they're going to be Flavian apologists. Let's see how this goes.
Not Roman standards, and reduced the Temple of Jerusalem to nothing but the Wailing Wall. On a lighter note,
all right, before they start talking about the commodes, so Matt, I know that you've got some thoughts on the Judean revolt. Expand.
Oh, I don't know. I think I don't know about. It's not I guess you could say they genocided the city, and
I wouldn't even.
But then it's more about exile, right? It's more about forced exile.
The big thing was the diaspora afterwards.
Yeah.
Like the other thing that they're not mentioning is the fact that Titus did not relish doing any of that. I believe Titus was the one that, like, they tried to hold a triumph for the siege of Jerusalem, and he responded with, "I will not celebrate vanquishing a people forsaken by their own God."
Yeah, Josephus has some good morally complex things to say about that time. Yeah.
And I've got an arrogant ape saying, "Perfect. I'm just in time for the toilet talk." Absolutely. Love. Let's roll. that back. Let's see. I don't know. Fair enough. All right. And then we've got some love going around in the chat. All right. Always a pleasure. Arrogant winner of coveted disco. Wait, what? Arrogant winner of coveted disco Diani figure? I don't even know. Okay.
New guy in the chat. Welcome.
No, it's arrogant ape, but like I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I'm guessing that this is from the War Party campaign, not War Potty campaign. War Party. Oh goodness, someone's probably gonna end up clipping that. That's gonna be fun. But speaking of potties, let's find out what this. Because we can skip over the first and second triumvirate, but we have to talk about public potties in Rome.
It's about balance.
Vespasian had the jolly good Roman predisposition. He taxed the collectors of urine at the public toilets. And Titus, the destroyer of Jerusalem, would nevertheless obtain the title of merciful. After a splendid triumph, he opened the Colosseum for the people.
So it's like, oh, well, I mean, he did kill all the Jewish people, but he did earn the thing merciful. It's like you forget the whole fact that, like, yeah, he put down the Judean revolts, but he wasn't like when you are in that position and you're taking down a rabble-rousing community of people, whether it's in Judea, Germany, or what have you, and you're a Roman general, you flaunt that like a badge of honor. The big thing about Titus, at least according to, as Matt pointed out, Josephus, is that he's actually really humble about his victories in Jerusalem and in Judea, in the Judean province. His reaction to Masada was just absolutely like heartbreaking. Like, that'd be extremely
that'd be a noble warrior's end by Roman standards for sure, right?
Absolutely. It was one of those things where it's like, and it's interesting because you also have to go into the fact of modern archaeology actually doesn't support Josephus's account of Masada. So like there's also the whole thing of, well, did that story even happen? You know, Josephus was a slave that was Judean in origin, and so like there is a question of how much of his stories that he told in his records of the Judean campaigns were legitimate, or how much of them were told to paint things in a specific light.
Sure. And who's he writing it to? You know, he's
Exactly.
he's a defeated general of a conquered people, and he's trying to, understandably, I suppose, negotiate his way in this new world post Judea, in a way, you know, in a real sense, post Jerusalem.
Absolutely. So, and we have a great comment from the chat from arrogant winner of the coveted Disco Diani figure, War Potty. Man, Odin just can't wait to talk about those commodes. And Aldous is pointing out that the only downside is I can't ×2 speed through these moments. Oh, gee, thanks, man.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we'll try to be more entertaining about.
You know what, Matt? We are entertaining. Screw this.
I hope so.
We're having fun.
I don't know. Judean genocide. That's we'll try and pump that up for you guys.
Oh yeah. Put out the hashtag. That won't have any blowback at all. Oh goodness.
Yeah.
Anyways. All right, let's get back to it.
Titus would be called the love and consolation of humankind. And after such festivities had depleted the public treasury, Vesuvius destroyed Pompeii, plague devastated half Italy, and Titus became a god.
Okay, so wait one goddamn second. Hold on. we're going to talk about the destruction of Pompeii, but we're going to completely like a thing that, by the way, archaeologists can't confirm what the actual date was because the archaeological evidence doesn't support the historically recorded date. So, like, we're going to talk about the destruction of Pompeii and Mount Vesuvius, but no, we're not going to talk about the triumvirate.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever. Neff has joined the chat. What is this nonsense? Why do I always walk in when you're talking about killing Jews? Judean genocide is a great water cooler topic.
Yeah.
Aldous is saying that he was just calling Matt C the love and consolation of humankind.
Yeah. Yeah.
At Nefarious, I don't know if they ever stop talking about it, frankly. maybe where you work at Ape. Fantastic. We're loving the chat. Loving the chat tonight. All right.
As usual, the chat is 8 to 10 times funnier than we are, but we are gonna try and even those numbers tonight.
Oh, 100%. I am filled to the brim with self-deprecation. Good job, Neff. Good job on pointing that out. All right. So, part 7, the height of the empire. We've got Trajan there.
The 2nd century would go down in history as the era of the good emperors. Trajan was considered by his contemporaries.
I can't really fault this video on this, but this is what happens when anybody talks about the good emperors. Nerva is the first of the good emperors, and everyone just goes, "Yeah, we'll talk about Trajan."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean they're excited about walls in England, right? They're excited about imperial expansion.
Yeah, it's like everyone when it comes down to the good emperors, it's do we need to talk about Nerva? Nah.
Mm-hmm.
How about Antonius Pius? Nah. Trajan. Okay.
Yeah. He's got a column. He's, I get it,
Oh, goodness. Let's see how this goes.
The best emperor ever. Rome became a 1 million-strong city, and the empire reached its largest extent.
Wait one goddamn minute. We're going to point out genocide in every single time that there's military expansion, and then when we get to Trajan, greatest emperor ever.
Yeah, that is funny. Yeah.
Dacia and the Middle East is calling. Like,
mm-hmm. That's an interesting question. Yeah, how do you square that circle if you want to like morally hand wring about the empire, which I get, but like, are you going to do that with every emperor, equally, or are you going to find another way to talk about this without having to slow things down like we're doing now by talking about it?
Hey, man,
and they do it selectively, so.
I mean, they're the ones that chose to talk about Pompeii instead of getting into the actual fun stuff. Anyways, hold on. The chat's giving me guff because I keep stopping it. We've made it 7 seconds.
Sorry.
It's all
this is the EFAP, guys.
Rome connected our new territories via a network of paved roads. This system still determines the transport map of Europe. After Trajan's conquest, Hadrian busied himself with defense, erecting massive fortifications in Britain and between the Rhine and the Danube.
So just as a quick side note here, this isn't a thing on the video. I actually have a piece pending peer review about Hadrian's reductionism, specifically the construction of his wall and how it was a manifestation of like Hadrian realizing that the empire was doomed. His reductionist policy was effectively he saw what was going on in Britain and it scared him silly, and so he spent the rest of his reign building up border defenses, and then he cements it with a iron fist campaign in Judea puts like instigates, in my opinion, instigated another Judean revolt by
absolutely. Bar Kokhba, yeah.
Yeah, like by trying to establish a Roman colony on top of the ruins of the frickin' temple.
That'll get people tend to miss the 135 revolt, 132 revolt, but that's the one that really kicks Jews out of the whole region, and just cements over what we think of as Jerusalem. That wasn't the 79.
So Aldous on the farm just off Orwell Lane says, "No shit, Hadrian's reductionism, man. Pennies are gonna go." What, man? It's like, hey man, I'm not doing this because to score chick points. The glory of Rome is eternal. Chicks are just temporary. All right.
Anyway, was built in Rome, the first temple to be topped by a massive dome, a real architectural sensation of the day, dedicated to all the gods. Hadrian would also include his lover among them, the young Antinius. More of his images have survived than of any Roman. The last good emperor, the throned philosopher, Marcus Aurelius, would spend most of his
So we're just going to skip over Antonius Pius. It's all good.
reign on military expeditions. In between battles, he wrote his manifesto for Stoic philosophy, meditation,
which was never supposed to be published. It was just his personal diary.
It was under Marcus Aurelius' son, Commodus, that the Pax Romana, the Roman peace, came to an end. He preferred a gladiator's glory to the affairs of state. Conspirators had the emperor strangled by a fellow fighter, the slave Narcissus. Rome sank.
What they fail to mention is that strangulation happened in the middle of an orgy. Also, they do not mention, as a fun little tidbit about Commodus, is he actually started off his reign pretty all right. He was listening to his advisors that his father had put in place to help him rule, and Commodus followed this trend that you saw even previously with Caligula, where an early assassination attempt makes him distrust everybody around him, turns him batshit insane. And this time it was like a full, like Caligula, thought it was an assassination attempt. No, this time there was actually an assassin with a dagger with the people who hired him written on like parchment attached to the dagger, and it failed. And even worse still was the leader of the conspiracy was the husband of his sister. So that certainly did not help things.
Into chaos. The next 100 years brought a sequence of random emperors proclaimed by the army taking their turn on the throne, or a liberated slave, a fortune seeker who bought the throne at an auction, General Punic Descent who would place statues of the former.
So we're mentioning Septimius Severus. I think that we talked a little bit about him earlier in the video where a big hubbub has been made about Septimius Severus because he's from North Africa. And so a lot of modern artists are starting to like paint Septimius Severus as being black, but he was actually of Phoenician origin. So I'm sure that they're probably going to talk about that here very shortly, because that seems
it's good they went Punic. They did mention that, so I appreciate. Hats off to that.
Yeah. So let's see.
Enemy, Hannibal, all over the empire, a Syrian priest of the sun, and a former shepherd who owed his popularity to his powerful physique. In 212, Emperor Caracalla, half North African, half Syrian, granted Roman citizenship to nearly all free subjects of the empire. The idea that you could be a Roman in Judea, in Africa, or any other corner of the empire at all might well be the main legacy of Rome still in use today. By mid-century, Rome was already in the midst of such a crisis that the whole provinces were starting to split off. The Gauls, for instance, proclaimed an empire of their own.
Are we going to talk about the Chad Aurelian?
Order would be restored by the son of a liberated slave,
Yeah.
Diocletian. Having started his career as a soldier, he would end up an absolute monarch, an astonishing example of social mobility. Diocletian split the empire into four, with 4 co-rulers at 4 capitals, situated closer to the frontier. Rome lost its significance. The Senate became a town council. The country was now ruled by an army of officials personally.
That's not exactly fair. The Senate always maintained a pretty strong position throughout the empire, even in these late stages. But the main Senate was no longer in Rome. The Romans, the traditional Roman Senate, I guess technically that's accurate. But like there is a Senate in Constantinople that's pretty damn influential, if I recall.
Yeah, there's a bit of a like a definitional shift here, right? Where you can talk about Rome and it's that little dot in Italy, but this whole thing's about talking about the empire, and there's a Roman Empire and there's a Senate that's moving with the yeah.
Like as you can see here, on the Italian portion of the empire, Rome isn't even the major thing. It's Mediolanum, which is in modern Milan. And after that, when Constantine splits the empire into the capital of the Western Roman Empire is actually not in Rome; it's in Ravenna, which is up around. I don't know if my cursor is showing up on this map, but it's up a little bit northeast. Northeast of Rome, right in like the base of the boot up top. So
reporting to the emperor. Thus, the ancient world, centered around the concept of a free community and free citizens, came to an end. From the princeps, the first senator, the emperor had become the dominus, a title by which slaves addressed their masters. The citizen became a subject, the warrior turned into a soldier, and the farmer a semi-serf.
So this is actually the influence of Germanic cultures. One of the things that's this big misconception is that by the time Rome gets sacked by the Visigoths towards the end of the empire, is that the Visigoths were these like barbarian hordes of uncultured peoples. By this point, the Visigoths had a lot of exposure to Roman rule, and in fact, a good chunk of the past Roman emperors had been born in Dacia and these other Germanic areas. And so a lot of influence from Germanic tribes made their way into Roman culture.
Yeah. Like Caracalla that they went over with the whole passport thing. You know, he was called that because of the style of cloak he wore that wasn't Roman. It was a Northern
Really
European, I think.
We do need to address some stuff because the chat has been blowing up, and I feel really bad. This has actually been a really fun conversation, and after me being like half dead last week, this was a nice change of pace. Mo Biggs has joined the chat saying this show is still a thing. Yes, we are still here.
Sorry, Mo Biggs, still a thing.
Alda says that it's something special. Arrogant winner of the coveted Disco Diani figure. Dude, you just change it back to Arrogant Ape. This is egregious. Especially goth chicks, am I right? Odin? Yeah, of course. And then we've got some hailing going around. Hello, at Mobiggs. I'm surprised as you. At least it's not weebery. We can always make room for some weebery on this show, though. I could find something. The Goths were genocided along with, you guessed it. Fair enough. Let's see. Wait, no Marcus love? Dude, everyone talks about Marcus Aurelius. And he's a phenomenal emperor. He's the philosopher king. I know that this video didn't go into near as much detail as you probably could or should go into with Aurelius. but at least he's mentioned, unlike certain equally as important people that just got blown off. Aldous says, I call foul. We got Sugar Chris has joined the chat. So hail Sugar Chris, assassination or kink gone too far?
Yeah, probably the latter. That was a Commodus reference.
Yeah.
Commodus.
Commodus.
Absolutely.
Odin would know all about strangulation and autoerotic asphyxiation, but not orgies. I'd make another joke on that, but that'd be dunking on myself, and we're just not going to go there. He has orgies every weekend with his waifu pillows. I don't have any
waifu pillows.
I'm not that bad. I'm not B-Rose. Pretty sure Vivid Entertainment has a peer-reviewed piece coming out on orgies, probably. Septimius killed Dumbledore. That's great. Putting your name on a hired killer's murder weapon seems like a bad idea. Well, they wanted him to know that it was them who killed him, but the assassin failed, so it really just was not smart. You're not wrong. Hashtag Cracula bow. Fair enough.
Bow.
Yeah. Haven't heard a single mention of Biggest Dickus. 0 out of 10 on this documentary. I mean, fair enough. I didn't say, oh my God. Constantinople, never forget. We haven't gotten there, and I doubt that this video will talk about the fall of Constantinople.
One bugbear, speaking of troublesome Africans, I can speak to that. Caracalla genocided the Alexandrian army-aged men, and no one ever talks about that. He brought them all into the arena, and he asked them to dress up like Macedonian soldiers, and then he had them all wiped out for being typical troublesome North Africans and being anti his establishment, which is typically the case with Alexandrians. They typically go against any establishment, and they got wiped out. Genocided by modern standards. But
yep.
I only want to talk about the passport thing, which is interesting. It's something to it's worth mentioning and having it be something that sticks out in the video. But he was also as crazy as Commodus, so
yeah, he
also thought he was a reincarnation of Alexander the Great, all this kind of stuff. But
well, I mean, that kind of is a theme with batshit insane Roman emperors. Caligula did the same thing. He actually stole the breastplate of Alexander the Great from his tomb in Alexandria.
Yeah,
is insane. Mo Biggs stated it feels like Ogdenius has built his own version of Hadrian's Wall to gatekeep the chat. I wasn't trying to, Mo.
Sorry.
I got caught up.
We're tearing down that wall. We got distracted.
Istanbul is Constantinople. It don't mean nothing to the Turks. Well, apparently neither does the Armenian genocide. So, yeah. That's a pretty high level breakdown of the social strata alterations. Hell yeah, Goth GF. Nothing like a big titty Vicia red dress press. Even in Roman talk, Mo gets gate kept. You will now address me as your arrogance. At 2 Sugar Chris. Sorry we ruined your Roman history party. Man, we've got a whole bunch of people that have just joined in. Phoenix Animation has joined in. It's been a while since I've seen you in the chat. Hail, Brendan. I hope you're doing well.
You're welcome.
What a surprise. The topic of waifu pillow orgies comes up, and here's Phoenix. Indeed. We got some Latin greetings. You get bonus points. If I could give you like an extra special wrench, I would, Aragonate, but I think I've already given you the most special wrench I can. And I think that I think that catches us up, so we can go back to shitting on this video for the remaining 5 minutes.
Diocletian himself resigned from the post of emperor 20 years later and went off to his estate to grow cabbages.
Do you think that Diocletian actually did that, or do you think that that was propaganda meant to make him comparable to what's his name? Why am I blanking? The Roman dictator.
Oh,
God,
yeah.
why am I?
I doubt he said. I think the quote is something like they asked him to come back, and he said, "But you got to see the size of my cabbages." I feel like that's probably.
They asked him to return, and he says, "But you must see the size of my cabbage fields."
Yeah, I'm not. I'm pressing X to doubt on that, but
But yeah, like that. Cincinnatus had done a similar thing where he was reigned as dictator of Rome, fixed everybody's shit, and then retired to be a farmer. But anyways.
After Diocletian's departure, the co-rulers were fighting for power. Constantine, the future Saint Constantine the Great, emerging victorious. Before the crucial battle for Rome, he allegedly had a vision of a cross.
So this is actually not the symbol that he saw. The symbol that he saw is the one that you see on the Eastern Roman Empire banners with the almost star cross with a P on it. I'll pull that up here in a little bit, but
after this, he made all religions equal. After 300 years of persecutions, the Christians came out of the catacombs and were now entitled to build churches alongside the temples of Augustus and
this is a bit
I do think it's interesting. It's nice that they went out on a limb and made a technically accurate point here, because I think popularly speaking, people get the impression that he just kind of mandated Christianity for the empire, and it's kind of interesting that they decided to, they could have said that, and probably few people other than us would have piped up about that, but they decided to kind of stick to the books for that point, which I appreciate. It was radical to do that, absolutely.
Yeah. What I will say is that by this point in the empire, Christianity, while it was still not mainstream, it was no longer the persecuted religion that it was during the period of Nero. And it was far more widespread than a lot of people realize. There was actually pretty substantial Christianization throughout the empire, which is why they were kind of able to assert themselves the way that they were. However, asserting themselves as the religion of the empire would actually have some major kickback and bring about a lot of conflict, because the former policy of Rome in terms of religion was there was the religion of state, but so long as you acknowledged the religion of state, you could practice what you wished. And a lot of people tried to maintain that when Christianity got made the religion of the empire, and this caused a lot of issues. In fact, in Egypt, there was a temple to a local like river deity, or something that the church tried to close down, but this temple had held festivals for agriculture for generations, and the people weren't willing to do it, and so the church sent a few legions down, and they burned the temple with everybody inside of it. Crazy stuff.
Yeah, hard to do syncretism the same way, I think, or an accommodationism, I guess.
Yeah.
Constantine would take the cross from Jerusalem to the new capital of the Roman Empire, Constantinople. Theodosius I would make Christianity the official religion and begin to destroy the ancient temples. He would also be the last emperor of a united Roman Empire. His sons split the empire into west and east. The eastern half would live another 1,000 years and is known to us as Byzantium. The west.
I really don't like the more that you study about Eastern Rome, the more that the more that I study about Eastern Rome, the more that I dislike the use of the term Byzantium. They're the continuation of the Roman Empire. They saw themselves that way. Everybody in the contemporary region saw them as the Romans. When you read primary source documentation, even during the rise of the Muslim empires and the rise of the Prophet, they all call this Rome. This is Rome. These are the Eastern Romans. Stop calling it Byzantium. No. Byzantium ended when Constantine named it Constantinople and made it the hub of the Eastern Roman Empire. Aurelius almost did the same. Not Aurelius, Hadrian almost did the same thing because he spent so much time in Greece as well. He was considering having a Eastern hub. So,
but all of that's well within the historic imperial boundaries, of. So it's funny, if you had moved the capital, to the Americas or something, then maybe there's a better argument to start talking about it as being a different thing. But if you're moving it within the empire to another historic, center point, it's kind of weird that people get selective about that. Yeah, I don't know what I suppose the reason they do it, honestly, they probably just want to distinguish between Christian Rome and pre-Christian Rome. So that it's just a way to do that, I guess. But
maybe I don't know. I think that it's incredibly disingenuous because it tries to make them as a separate culture when they are in fact they literally are the cultural inheritors of the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
And the way that their court hierarchy and everything like that is very Roman, and while it does bear a lot of Eastern influence due to its proximity of Asia Minor and being in Greece and what have you, it still holds the same Roman traditions. They have the same honors systems. They do a lot of the same things. They are just in the East. But
western part would fall victim to the great migration of peoples. Rome, founded by migrants, would fall to the onslaught of a new wave of refugees. Ironically, the last ruler of Rome would be called Romulus. In modern Rome, not far from the Colosseum and the ruins of the Forum, there is a tomb. Its occupant was neither emperor nor senator, but a simple baker called Eurysakes. Likely born a slave into a family of Greek migrants, he later entered into a bread supply contract with the capital and became so rich that he could build such a monument for himself and his wife.
This is what we're talking about here, guys. We could do without an additional. We could not talk about the triumvirates or any of the important shit from the early part, but we will dedicate almost a minute worth of time to a bread maker and his wife who have a monument here at the ruins of the Roman Forum. And it's really great.
Before Rome, in ancient Egypt and elsewhere, or after Rome during the Middle Ages, a man would die in the same station in life as he had been born in. The life and career of Eurysakes is an answer to the question of how Rome was able to create a global state that lasted over 1,000 years.
Yeah, those script authors, I'm going to need to hit up and tell them that they suck at their jobs. So we did it, guys. We made it to the end of this video, and we are only 40 minutes in. God, that was awful. All right, we're gonna close that out.
How many views did that get? Did you?
Oh,
What's the numbers on that?
It's got an absurd amount. Goodness.
Was it a million? It didn't get a million.
It's got to be. So many people have done reaction videos to that thing. Like big 8.8 million views.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. 8.8 million people getting the wrong freaking history.
So yeah, what do you think? Like, it is kind of funny. Like, I guess, okay, so Rome is an economic zone, and it's giving social mobility and political
really
and liberal citizenship packages, I guess.
Which really isn't accurate, Matt. How many people in ancient Rome climbed up the social ladder? Like prominent figures that you can think of. Emperors don't count, because by the time of the second and the twilight of the 2nd century and heading into the 3rd century, emperors were getting killed and made every 3rd Tuesday. So like literally, if you were if you could swing a sword well enough and impress a few people, you probably had a laurel put over your head at one point or another. So like,
okay, so there's some social mobility there, I guess. Is that what we're saying? Maybe too much social mobility? Like, what's the take?
I just trying to push it as this, like, what they're trying to do is showcase that it was a place of like a economic opportunity. And don't get me wrong, there certainly was that, but just because you had wealth didn't mean that you would be accepted by the upper class. You know?
Yeah, that was the whole point of the first half of the video, right? With the late Republic.
Yeah,
like, well, it actually kind of we got this like massive like pyramidization, I guess, of the hierarchy. There are a lot more people, like the middle class, as it were, I guess. The citizen farmer kind of got obliterated and flattened down to the lower classes, and that maintained, like, my understanding is that went well into the Byzantine period. So it's what we think of as the Roman Empire didn't have as much mobility as, and what were their neighbors doing? I don't see them as particularly less open to mobility. I don't think so I don't know. It's just it's a weird thing. It's a weird take, I guess. It's probably, I always feel like this sort of thing is where they go, because they're thinking about we're looking at maps of what we recognize to be Western Europe, and we're trying to think like, well, what looks like Western Europe today, but like projected back through time into previous centuries. And maybe we can kind of, we like to think of Europe that way today, where everyone is mobile. So let's try to figure out how Rome is that, and I don't think it's like something that people scheme at intentionally, but they just kind of unconsciously try to draw like one-to-one connections, I think, between Rome in particular and modern Europe or Western society. But there's been people, I don't know, what's his name? Tom Holland has put out Dominion. He's done several books to like demonstrate the alien nature in a real sense of ancient Roman culture to modern, liberal democratic culture, I guess, and he makes great points. And it's not, I don't think we're serving history well by just trying to find you got to make it entertaining, but just trying to find similarities, I guess, between modern Europe and ancient Europe. But anyway, that's my soapbox. But it's worth exploring. It's a complicated topic.
Absolutely, and I get that. But like I also feel like it's important to realize that each of these times didn't exist within a vacuum, and trying to put these periods and the characters in them into a modern setting to try and compare is just disingenuous. Now, what I did want to point out is earlier I talked about the actual sign that Constantine saw, and Aldous addressed it in the chat. He said that would be a chi, not a p. And I apologize, I couldn't think of the name. So this is a Chi Rho or a Labarum, depending on which you want to label it as. I think the Chi Rho is the Greek, and then Labarum is the Latin. And then we can catch up with the chat a bit because we've got some really good ones in here. Mo Big says Constantine's holy bowl cut inspired Ogden's own hairstyle. I do need a haircut, but that's not far off. No, it's both. You're right, Aldous. It's both.
It's 2 letters.
It's 2 letters put together. It's a Chi Rho or a Labarum.
Christos,
They considered mandating Christianity, but faced a backlash from certain troublesome elements. Didn't they adopt Christianity to gain numbers? No. I think that what happened was that Constantine. There was definitely at that point in time, Greece was a really big hub of Christianity, and the eastern portion of the empire had always held a good chunk of the material wealth, and so taking the sign of Christianity after it had gone through its Grecanization probably got him some economic benefactors, but I don't think it was to gain numbers.
Yeah, it was controversial either way. It was very mixed polity at that point.
All right, so Ogden, can you tell you more about them? Okay, let's see. So this is actually a really interesting point. We celebrate Christmas on the 25th, but was to fold in Christians to celebrate at the same time as Mithras and Old Christmas. So that's not entirely accurate. So yes, there's the Divine Cult of Mithras had a winter festival on the 25th, but also Saturnalia was around the same time. What you have to realize is that most pagan traditions of the winter solstice were around that late December time period, and so it was a decision.
Everybody has a solstice at the same time, regardless of your. We all have the same planets, regardless of your religious identification.
That's even the same thing with Easter. It's the reason why we have the Easter bunny and everything was pagan traditions of spring and fertility and everything like that. The rabbit being a pagan symbol for fertility and childbearing, because rabbits do what they do.
Yeah. But I was reading, there's an interesting paper that came out on the rededication of the.
Someone clip Ogden saying they were the true inheritors of the Roman Empire. It'll pair well with his troublesome quotes.
That's good.
Oh, you suck sometimes. I don't think so, because
well, if that's true, and that's part of the interesting conversation is that if that's true, I mean, you didn't have an Italian emperor after the early 200s, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, by the time the empire fell, there had been emperors from pretty much every corner of the empire, from North Africa to Dacia. A good chunk of empires from the crisis of the 3rd century were from the territory that Trajan had acquired during his Dacian campaigns. Most notably Aurelian, who was the last Roman emperor to fully unify the full extent of the Roman Empire, who's named Restitutor Orbis, restorer of the world.
Yeah, and we still think of them as Roman, even though, and that's what's interesting is like the Roman Empire was looking more and more like the provinces that it had absorbed, and its neighbors just outside of those borders, within those shifting borders, were becoming more and more Romanized. So it's really like different competing factions that were claiming, inheriting Roman culture and claiming identity with it. We're including the Vandals and Goths and such were like it's just different rivals of people who are had already largely assimilated into Roman culture, which is kind of interesting. So it's like, did Rome fall? Did the Western Empire fall, or is it just like different groups of Romans fighting and evolving?
I would say that the Western Roman Empire fell. Because you had people that wanted to like, you even had Visigoth chieftains that wanted to become like the next emperor of Rome, but like really there came a point where the city of Rome itself, the influence that the city had over the region was gone. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is how influential was the culture to its contemporary setting. And by the time of the, we'll call them the Middle Ages rather than the Dark Ages. By the time of the Middle Ages in Europe, Rome, its population had gone from, when it was at its height, like 3 million to a few hundred thousand. It was a far cry of its glory days. It was very much a shadow of its former self. Now, what I do want to address is we've got some great comments about the baker at the end of that video. So we'll start here with the Art and Times. Bacchus Goodus.
That's a good one.
Wondrous Bredicus from Aldous. Great. From Arrogant, I don't remember what I'm supposed to call you, Arrogant Ape. I'm sorry. Lufus Commostus. Okay. I'm incredibly impressed on levels that are measurable on the micron scale. Loftus Mostus. Ogden really hates that baker. Imagine his intolerance if the man had owned a deli. God damn it. Did he bake his way into the hearts of men? We should drop this. Ogden prefers to keep the show gluten-free.
Gosh.
Aldous probably wins. He baked his way into a really bad 30-minute history of Rome video on YouTube that has more views than there are Roman scholars. That's a win.
It's true. Good counterpoint.
This probably takes comment of the show. This is pretty fantastic. Damn, gluten intolerant. His bigotry knows no buns.
Why do we even try? Like the chat is just on fire, and I don't know if we're never able to top the chat.
No, we're like, that's the whole point, is the chat's here. The chat's really the show, guys.
Absolutely.
All this talk about an Asia Minor sounds like ooh, I'm not repeating that. That was Mo, even for you, man. Now let me walk back my earlier statements. I think that was, are we learning here? Not at this point. Did the Western Empire fall? Not a question I'd expect from this panel. Hail Mo Biggs. Stay tuned next week for Is Mass Real? Did the Roman Empire fall? We must get back to that next week. Oof.
That's pretty good. That's the 1453.
So Crazy Mad, you missed it. At the end of the video, they kind of punctuated everything by talking about some nobody baker who built a really cool tomb for him and his wife to talk about the economic mobility that existed in ancient Rome. And that took almost a minute of time, but they decided that, talking about that for a minute was more important than some of the most important infrastructures that established the fall of the Roman Republic and rise of the empire, or, talking more than 2 seconds about Marcus Aurelius, and how he, led the Roman Empire through a devastating plague, like ridiculous death tolls, and he did it from within the city of Rome, which had like the highest death tolls of all. And he even got sick with the plague at one point, and he almost died, and he continued to lead the empire and do very well at it. Yeah, so if you hate the baker, I get it. Okay, fair enough. I know Hojo was in the chat earlier. Hey, one of the guys at the wrench, can you find Hojo's campaign? I know that he has one. I think it's let me see if I can't find it. Because I'm going to show Matt's campaign here in a sec, but Hojo was here for a little bit earlier, and I know that he's got a new campaign that's going, and I want to make sure that we show that off. Bake me a cake, Bigotus Maximus. Gee, thanks, guys.
Really good.
Let's see.
I gotta start taking notes, Arrogant Ape. I just don't know how you do it.
No, man. All right, yeah, I found it. Okay, and he is funded. He's doing well, so we'll pull that up here. We'll pull that one up first. In fact,
Already funded. That's good.
yes, I am getting the share screen up. So Hojo has the Mythicals #1, and Hojo's a big supporter of not only my channel, but he's backed a few of my campaigns, and he's a good dude. Also, fellow Virginian, and book looks solid. Who does he got going and doing the art on this? Let's see. Got some pretty solid sequentials here. Looks to be kind of a horror book. I remembered him tagging me in a few things because this card right here, he had a character called Julian, who's a vampire, ancient Roman vampire, which was pretty cool.
That's rad.
I wonder if it's supposed to be Julian the Apostate, another character not mentioned. Even though
you would have thought they would have enjoyed that, the switching back and forth, religiously.
Because Julian the Apostate, the big thing people know him for was the fact that he tried to bring back the Roman paganism of old. But the other big thing that he did is he actually started to wage a very successful campaign against Persia.
Mm-hmm.
He was actually doing pretty well until he got assassinated because of the religious beliefs thing. Not popular, not a popular thing to do by that point. Christianity had kind of taken hold in the empire, and so him trying to go back to the pagan ways rubbed a lot of high-ranking people wrong, and he ended up getting killed because of it. But he was actually a very promising emperor. So I don't see where his artist is listed. Doesn't mean that we've got the box art is by Don Edwards, and we have a dark bookmark from young superstar artist Dean James from The Embrace.
Oh, nice.
Always like seeing Dean getting on stuff. And I am trying to see.
You get
missing.
You can Control F and just type artist. See if it's on the page anywhere.
It's on the page once for young superstar artist Dean James. All right.
Dang.
Well, whoever the artist did a pretty solid job. And I know that it's cool to see the drink cozies here. Hojo's a big craft beer guy.
It's a great idea.
Always recommending me a good local brew to try out in private messages and everything. Really good guy. So if you haven't already, please check out the Mythicals #1. Maybe I'll even invite Hojo on to palaver about his book at some point. But anyways, so then we've got obviously Kyrie Book 3, which is so close to 10K. This is really killing me.
Yeah, it's torturous.
$102. That's it. That's all it needs. And it's just such a beautiful looking book. I own the first 2 books, and because Matt is a brilliant jerk that included annotated copies of the first 2 books in this campaign, I bought again on top of getting the box tier. But just an incredible value. Matt draws and writes all of his own stuff, and it's fantastic. I love this page here. There's some pages that he hasn't posted up that I've had the pleasure of viewing, and you guys aren't ready. Like, this book is going to be incredible. And Matt goes the extra mile for his backers. I mean, like he's making real ancient Roman coins for us if you get the box package. You know, like you don't get this kind of love from just anybody. Like you know, there I can list the amount of creators on one hand that put this much care into what they do. In terms of delivering like the most that they can on their big collector boxes. Like, he really does go the extra mile. But
thanks, Mike.
Let's get this to 10K, guys, and we are at the 1 hour mark. Odin's hands have many fingers, apparently. But anyways, thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with us. We have made it to the end of the 20-minute Roman history video. Next video that next thing that we're going to be doing, I think, we'll be continuing the oversimplified Punic Wars video. Just because we watched part 1 last week, so we'll get to part 2 next week. If anybody finds any interesting history takes that they want us to analyze that's specifically looking at ancient Rome, please feel free to send them our way. Love to actually talk about that. So you can either DM me or Matt. But considering that we finished out this 20-minute breakdown of Roman history, this is the end of this episode of One in Rome with Michael and Matt. I'm Michael Odin from Nine Realms Publishing. And
I'm Matt C., creator of Kyrie.
All right. You guys have an excellent evening, and we will see you guys next Wednesday.
Later.